District School Board. The date today is September 21st, 2022. I would like to welcome our gallery guests and the ones that are online. Thank you so much all for coming. Before we begin, I would like to remind you all, conversations and respectful debate are hallmarks of our board. To both our inner and outer circle within the board, please be mindful of your tone, your language, and our rules of the road. For those in our gallery, again, we welcome you this evening. My role as chair is to maintain decorum so that the board may engage in discussion, debate, and decision-making regarding our mandated roles in a respectful and efficient manner. Please know that the HDSB is committed to providing a safe, secure, and respectful environment for all. Words or actions that make others feel threatened or demeaned will not be tolerated, and decisive action will be taken to ensure the safety and comfort of all. If you so choose to engage in continual inappropriate behavior, you will be asked to leave. As such, I will manage any disruptions accordingly, up to and including recessing the meeting and or asking people to leave. If you are asked to leave, you will still be able to watch the meeting through the live stream at hdsb.ca. Although many of us are here, we have also been able to work with those who are unable to be with us in person. This flexibility allows us to use a hybrid approach for this board meeting. We have no delegations this evening. For those unaware of the process of delegating the board, that requires requests to be submitted by noon 2 days prior to the board meeting. Requests for delegation can be submitted through the HDSB website. I do want to emphasize that visitors and media attending are able to watch the duration of the meeting from the gallery. If visitors and media have questions, please submit your questions through the electronic question submission form on the HDSB website. Posters are around the room with the QR code link directly to the form. Question period is item 7.8 on the agenda. However, please note that multiple people are likely to be submitting similarly themed questions. Should a version of your question be asked and responded to over the course of the meeting, it will not be repeated. We would ask in that case that you return to review the meeting video, which we posted on the board website, hdsb.ca, as per our usual practice. We are asking visitors and media to remain seated during the duration of the meeting. We remind those, including the media, that participation in the meeting must be done through the online platform. I will now take roll call. Trustee Amos.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Trustee Collard. Trustee Collard? Okay.
I'm present, but I'm having technical difficulties. I keep getting booted, and I see two versions of me on the screen.
Okay, well, it's great to see you twice. Trustee Danielle.
Yes.
Thank you, I'm here.
Vice Chair Harrison. Hello. Trustee Garretts.
Good evening, everyone.
Trustee Gray.
Here, thank you.
Trustee Grabentz.
Present.
Trustee Oliver.
Good evening.
Trustee Reynolds.
I am here virtually.
Trustee Rocha.
Good evening.
Trustee Ruggiero.
Present.
And Trustee Wang.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. Director Ennis, could you please note of the staff that are in attendance this evening?
Thank you, Chair Shuttleworth. We have a full slate of the senior team here this afternoon, with the exception of our Human Rights and Equity Advisor, Pardeep Singh Nagra.
Thank you so much. Tonight, Trustee Amos will be honoring the land.
Thank you. Halton, as we know it today, is rich in history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis. From the Anishinaabe to the Adirondack, the Haudenosaunee, and the Métis, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather today on these treaty lands, we have the responsibility to honor and respect the four directions, land, waters, plants, animals, ancestors that walk before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for sharing their traditional territory with us.
Thank you very much. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II this past Monday. If we can all just take a quick moment to recognize the service and leadership that she offered to us here in Canada. Next, we are up to the agenda. Trustee Gray, would you like to make a motion to move the agenda, or approve the agenda, please?
I would, thank you.
Thank you. And Trustee Grabentz, would you like to second this motion?
Yes, thank you.
Is there any discussion? Are there any objections to approving the agenda? Oh, sorry. Trustee Rocha, I'm sorry.
Through you, Chair, if I could make one request for change on the agenda, and that is to note item 7.1.3. It's listed for action for October 12th, but I want to stipulate that it is for action October 26th. Thank you.
All right, so we'll defer that action item. Okay, so again, Trustee Gray, would you like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Yes, I would.
And Trustee Grabentz, again, would you like to second that motion?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections to approving the agenda as amended? Seeing none, by unanimous consent, the agenda is approved. Next, to check in, are there any declarations of possible conflict of interest? Wonderful. Seeing none, we are now up to items 2.0, which are the delegations and presentations to the board. As said previously, we have no delegations to the board this evening, but we do have one presentation, which is going to give us an overview of Project Search. I would like to welcome Rob Garcia and Angela Save, two of our instructional program leaders. Are they here tonight?
Yes, we are. Good evening. Thank you.
Good evening.
Wonderful. I'll pass the floor over to you.
Okay, well, we are very excited to be here to present Project Search this evening. Angela is going to share the presentation, and yeah, we'll go from there. So Project Search in Halton is something that we have, we are into our 4th year now of Project Search. And go ahead, Angela. Yeah, and here's where we run Project Search out of, which is Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital. It's an exciting program for students with developmental disabilities in their graduating years. So the first site was in Cincinnati at Cincinnati Children's Hospital in Ohio in 1996, founded by Aaron Reichel. To date, there are over 700 sites worldwide. We are very proud that in 2019, Halton District School Board became the first site in Ontario. In 2018, we were approached by the Director of Human Resources at Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital about partnering with Halton District School Board to begin Project Search. With the support of leadership, Mark Zonnefeld, Colette, Ruddock, and Sean Marks, we were able to make this happen. We had 2 graduating classes, and in 2021, we were approached by the ministry to become a mentor board, working with other boards in Ontario to expand Project Search across the province, and now we have multiple sites province-wide. So what is Project Search? Project Search is a program designed to teach students with intellectual disabilities work readiness in an authentic work environment. The key word in that sentence is authentic. We do many things in our Community Pathways programs to prepare students for life after school. And we have co-op opportunities, and we really want to make sure that our students are prepared to enter the community after graduation with as many opportunities as possible. Project Search provides an amazing opportunity because it is a fully authentic work experience for students. It's a regional program available to all students in Community Pathways program throughout the boards, but it is attached to TA Blakelock Secondary School Community Pathways program. That works very well for a number of different reasons. Administratively, housing all the OSRs, there's lots of good reasons to attach it to a school, and we're pleased to attach it to TA Blakelock. And again, this is operated out of Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital. So again, it's available to students in their graduating year or turning 18 by December the 31st. The class size is consistent with our Community Pathways program, so we could take up to 12 students per year. Students learn and work at the hospital in a variety of settings. So we have lots of different work internships. You can see the photos below. We have 20 different opportunities in the hospital for our students to learn and work in. The hospital has provided a beautiful classroom for in-class instruction. The first month is spent preparing students to work and navigate the hospital, learning in the classroom, work readiness skills, so that they are able to go into their internships. Over the course of the year, students complete 3 work placements over the year, and upon graduation, they are encouraged to apply to those positions if they were successful in their internships. So it really is a community partnership. We have 3 main players. So of course, Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital and Jim Fair, who's the Director of Human Resources. They provide the classroom space, of course, the embedded work experiences, which have grown over the years. I believe we started with about 8 internships. Now we're over 20. And of course, Jim's leadership at the hospital. We have Community Living Oakville, who's a partner with us. They have graciously provided us 2 excellent skills trainers to work with our students in the internships. And they also provide student follow-up upon graduation, helping students apply for positions in the community or at the hospital. And then, of course, the Halton District School Board provides the teacher, who's an amazing teacher named Lisa Prentice. She's just done an outstanding job. And of course, most importantly, the students.
We'd also like to take a moment this evening to take a closer look at what's been happening in Project Search and review some of the results that we've had. So in our very first year, we decided as a board to start with a smaller class size. This allowed us to ensure success of our interns while we focused on establishing the project. It was very exciting and a very challenging year as we navigated relationships and partnerships to develop our routines, the protocols, and a general sense of working together. Over the course of that year, we saw immense skill development, maturing, and a sense of accomplishment in our students. As they went out to work each day, our students and the staff working with them were welcomed into a variety of departments throughout the hospital. This included the ones on your screen. On the far right is one of our first interns, Marlo, and he did a work placement shown here in the emergency room. The photo on the left you see is Anaya, and she's working in the dialysis department. In our first year, we also gained a lot of attention from the community, including Global News, who did a story that featured our students, the classroom teacher, Lisa Prentice, and partners from the Community Living. Out of our 8 graduates in the first year, 6 became immediately employed at OTMH, while the other 2 continued to work through the Project Search follow-along model, consisting of job coaching and training post-graduation. Part of the uniqueness of Project Search is that follow-along model where community partners continue to work with the graduates as they seek employment and to provide those job coaching services. The 6 students who were employed within Halton Healthcare that first year found work in ambulatory care, food services, porter services, and inpatient rehabilitation. There was a diverse range of departments offering employment to our grads. 2020 was definitely a difficult year for both education and healthcare services. Despite ongoing fluctuation in protocols, access to the hospital, and the challenges in education with school closures, Project Search Halton remained running within the hospital. It took significant effort on behalf of Community Living, the Halton Healthcare team, and the Halton District School Board to remain safe and flexible. But through it, in our second year running, we had 8 students graduate, 6 of which became competitively employed, with graduates working in pandemic support, clinical information services, food services, and within the retail sector in the hospital. we saw students successfully gain employment in different departments, expanding the reach of Project Search and the impact within their hospital. Last year, in 21-22 school year, we had our largest graduating class so far of 9 students, all of whom are working competitively. Within the hospital, students were employed in food services, the retail sector, and at the restaurants, and we added to the list of those departments environmental services. One of the most challenging departments to get our students employed in at the hospital is the medical device reprocessing area. It requires completion of a college program and the writing of a proficiency test. One student from last year's graduating class has successfully enrolled in that program at Mohawk College with the hope of employment within that department after successful completion. In summary, in 3 years, the Halton District School Board has seen 25 students graduate from Project Search, 21 of which have achieved competitive employment. In Ontario, we have a mandate in PPM 156 to ensure successful transitions for students with exceptionalities. Project Search has not only aided in our efficacy in those transitions, but led to some additional improvements in our programming for all students in the Community Pathways program. We are so excited to be in our 4th year of Project Search and on track again for an additional set of employed graduates. When we compare our success against the national average, Inclusion Canada notes that only 25% of persons with intellectual disabilities are currently employed. Project Search worldwide has an employment rate of 75%, which is a significant increase. But here in Halton, in 3 short years, we've seen an employment rate of 84%, and that is truly something to celebrate. So, what's next for Project Search in Halton? In early 2020, the Ministry of Education became aware of Project Search and has begun something called the Developmental Disabilities Pilot Program across Ontario. And this is in conjunction with Project Search to encourage participation from additional school boards from around the province. As one of the first boards in Ontario to run Project Search, the Halton District School Board was asked to take on a mentoring role to support interested boards as they begin the program. That means that we are in regular meetings with the ministry and supporting new school boards by sharing our process and our learning, doing site visits, and helping to coordinate and facilitate industry partners. Being able to share our journey of success and help school boards navigate starting their own Project Search will continue this year as 2 new school boards establish their own projects and 11 more begin the process for next fall. As for our own site this school year, we have 10 students from across the board at Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital. They are starting up in their first internships in the next few weeks, and the team and staff are encouraged by their enthusiasm. As the program gains momentum in the organization, internship opportunities are growing, and the hospital staff comment about that change in thinking, that welcoming of the contributions of persons with disabilities into their workplace. Rob?
So what we have seen is an impact that goes well beyond the classroom. We have seen the environment at Oakville Trafalgar Memorial Hospital change in respect to the way they view people with intellectual disabilities as part of their workforce. We have seen students with increased confidence and an increased optimism around their future. And we have seen a community at large change because of this program. We are absolutely thrilled to continue this work. We have a short video to end the presentation that will give you an idea of the impact that this is having, not only on students, but on families and the community at large.
The ultimate goal of Project Search is to support our students through finding competitive employment. We do that through teaching both the soft skills and the employability skills, such as time management, communication skills, self-advocacy, budgeting, teamwork, and they're able to actually practice that in the workplace here at the hospital.
So Project Search for my son has been life-changing at this point for him. He feels like he belongs, and he's learning employment skills. So for us, that means that he'll find meaningful employment, and it makes it like we're just more excited about the future for him.
Project Search has given him the ability to become part of a team, doing exactly the same job, doing it very well, and he views himself as someone who's going to be able to be independent, going to work, and really be like everybody else and be part of a team. So he really knows this is his destiny because he can do that now, and it's just a great gift for him.
What I like about Project Search is instead of going for our last year of high school, we come here and have this opportunity to learn a work experience for when we're out in the real life.
We are looking at partnerships, and in our strategic plan, collaboration is a huge component of that. We looked and reached out to the Halton District School Board, Community Living, Autism Life Path to put this program in place and partnering with them.
We're trying to help the students to live independently and to find them meaningful job, to help them with their daily life, to provide to the community.
I think this project is great for Halton. I mean, I don't know where else he would have got this experience.
Okay, so that concludes our presentation. I'm not sure if there's time for questions or...
Yes, there is. So I'm going to pass the floor over to Trustee Gray.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations. The impact and success noted through your presentation tonight is a highly positive one for all of our communities. My two questions have to do with accessibility to the program. Is there busing provided, for example? I'm the trustee of Halton Hills, so just wondering, are students bused to this program? And is there a chance that this program could be expanded into other hospitals in Halton region? Thank you.
In terms of busing, we work with each family in terms of their own personal situation to ensure that they have access to the hospital. And so for Halton Hills, for example, Activan has agreed to add an additional route to the hospital every day, picking up our students from Acton and Georgetown. And so it really is an individual sort of conversation with parents should they have some trouble getting their students to the hospital. And then in terms of expansion, the Halton Catholic Board has opened a Project Search site last year at the Milton Hospital. And so there's opportunities for students all over Halton to participate in Project Search.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation. I had the privilege of being invited to witness Project Search at the hospital, as well as the graduation. And it's listed here in the presentation, impact transformative. And what I witnessed was staff, students, families, and even those of us who visited for a very, very short time felt the impact of this program. One of the visitors, it might have been Director Ennis, asked the students, you know, how do you feel about this project, this program? And I will never forget, one student said, you know, this is home, this is my family, I've made friends here, and I'm free. I feel very different than I did, you know, in a traditional setting. They were going on breaks with their new friends. The classmates themselves are lifelong friends, and it is quite a wonderful, wonderful thing. So my question after all of that is, if there are organizations in the community that are interested in expansion, bringing Project Search to their organization, who would they reach out to?
I would say that if there was local businesses that would like to be involved in some capacity, that they would connect with Sean Marks as a contact point, or Colette Ruddock. And then we could talk about how their involvement, what it may look like moving forward. We have a limited number of graduates in our Community Pathways program each year. But we certainly would invite local businesses to learn more about the project so that they could see the impact that students with developmental disabilities can have in their businesses. And we would encourage them to come out and visit our kids so that when they do graduate, they would be considered for employment in their business.
Thank you. Director Ennis.
Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth. Thank you so much for the presentation. I want to thank Superintendent Ruddock for her leadership, and also now Superintendent Shaws, who was a part of this program, as Vice Chair L. Harrison mentioned. This is one of the most incredible programs that I've ever visited. It was the highlight of my year, and I would encourage everyone to really spread the word far and wide, right around the globe, about the incredible things that are happening in the Halton District School Board, and this is just one such example.
Great, thank you. Do we have any more questions from trustees?
I've got a question. For 5 days,
You're out of order, sir. This is your warning. This is your warning. The next time you will be taken out. Recess. I'd like to call a recess. Trustees, everyone.
Trustees and staff will recess to the room back here. Thank you very much. Okay? Trustees and staff, please feel free to make your way back to the
3.0 and 4.0, the consent agenda items for approval and information, which include item 3.1, the Halton District School Board minutes for September the 7th, 2022, as well as item 4.1, the order paper. I'm going to put the motion on the floor. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board approve the consent agenda and receive the information items for September 21st, 2022. Trustee Garretts, would you like to move a motion to deal with the consent agenda?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
And Trustee Oliver, would you like to second that?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Are there any items that need to be pulled? Seeing none, are there any objections to approving the consent agenda? And again, seeing none, by unanimous consent, the consent agenda is approved. We now get up to item 5.0, the student trustee report. Trustee Reguero and Trustee Wang, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, we do.
Wonderful. Please go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you all again. I hope you all had a lovely start to the school year. For Trustee Ruggiero and I, the start of the school year marks not only the start of another academic year, but also the start of two very exciting areas for us as student trustees. First being the launch of the Student Senate, and second being our work and advocacy as student trustees.
As the first month of school comes to a close, a new chapter begins, the launch of the Htsb Student Senate. Trustee Wang and I are working diligently to promote and finalize the launch of the Htsb Student Senate to the more than 66,000 students of the Htsb. Thanks to the support of Associate Director Salmini, Trustee Wang and I had the opportunity to introduce the Htsb Student Senate to administrators at the upcoming Family of Schools meetings. We've developed a comprehensive introduction package for administrators, which outline the request of selecting student representatives, introduced the draft HDSB Student Senate Selection Guide mentioned last board meeting, and emphasize our prioritization of equity of access for meetings through the Milton Learning Center, JWS Center, and the virtual model, which was all made possible through an engaging video we filmed at Dr. Frank J. Hayden. In the coming weeks, we look forward to meeting with administrators to answer any questions and analyze the set of data from the Student Senate admin feedback form, which will be sent out to administrators in the coming weeks to develop a process that considers all stakeholders to standardize the Student Senate selection process.
So everything Ethan just mentioned, or Trustee Ruggiero just mentioned, are very exciting steps too for us to launch Student Senate, and we have more to add on to that. So on Monday, our Student Senate staff advisors sent out an email to all elementary and secondary principals on behalf of Trustee Ruggiero and I. And through this email, we officially requested for Student Senate nominations and shared with them our HDSB Student Senate selection guidelines that we discussed at the last board meeting. We communicated that our overarching goal is to eliminate inequities and biases by considering lived experiences, diverse backgrounds, and reevaluating traditional criteria when selecting our student senators for this year. And these are all information that will be shared once again at the upcoming Family of Schools meetings that Trustee Ruggiero just talked about. Trustee Ruggiero and I also directly sent out an email to all grade 7 and all HDSB students from grade 7 to 12 earlier today, around like 4 hours ago, to inform them about Student Senate and how to get involved. Very exciting. Both of us have already received positive feedback, questions, and interest from students and staff, which has made us all the more excited for Senate this year. We're excited to see returning senators, welcome new senators, and hopefully expand the participation of our Student Senate like never before. We can't wait to meet all the passionate senators our principals put forward by October 14th and look forward to the first Student Senate meeting on October 18th. Our meetings will begin online, but will transition to different in-person locations as the year progresses. In addition to that, Trustee Ruggiero and I are also working on an updated video about Student Senate with the HDSB Communications Department that we hope can come out later this year.
In addition to all the communications that's going out to parents and students, we have also developed a detailed welcome letter to support students' transition into the role of a student senator. This letter outlines the expectations for students while also launching the applications for Student Senate subcommittees and the Executive Council. Students can access a detailed outline of all the available positions to continue their advocacy, including a new executive position, along with their respective subcommittee applications. We encourage students of all backgrounds, experiences, and interests to apply for the roles to further student voice within the HDSB. Applications will close on Thursday, October 28th, and the positions will be finalized at our November Senate meeting. Students can stay up to date with these new opportunities and get involved through the HDSB student website. We hope to send out this welcome letter to all selected senators in the coming weeks.
This month also marks the first month of Trustee Ruggiero and I turning our goals as student trustees into action. Our first focus was mental health. Earlier this month, we had the pleasure to meet with Michelle Bates, the mental health lead, about how mental health for students can be improved. Thanks to her guidance, we agreed that we would like to see more youth engagement and leadership in the mental health and well-being sphere, thus beginning our process to creating a student mental health task force or advisory group for the HDSB. In brief, we hope to create a task force beyond Senate that would guide mental health action at the board level compared to a school and local level. This initiative is in its very early stages, but we will be drafting a motion to this on our student senate at one of our early meetings. The goal is to introduce the idea of to the Senate and provide background information about this task force, pass the motion through Senate to develop this committee, and formalize the link in connection to Senate, despite these being like two very different groups of students. And our Senate and its mental health subcommittee will most likely be the ones working on developing this motion, which we hope to formally bring to the board table once completed. If anybody would like to provide insight or guidance during this process, please feel free to let either of us know.
In addition to the mental health advocacy within the board, Trustee Wang and I have launched an inquiry regarding the Halton Police Youth Liaison program to ensure that the largest stakeholder of the HDSB, the students, are consulted in the development and implementation of the school officer program. We want to better understand how a SLO may impact a safe and inclusive learning environment while ensuring our most vulnerable and marginalized students have a platform to share their experiences. Thanks to Superintendent Fowler, Trustee Wang and I had a rich discussion about the past, present, and future of the SLO program and how student voices can be incorporated in the discussion. HDSB students are ultimately the ones working and interacting with these officers on a regular basis, so it is essential that the program takes into account the evolving needs, wants, and impacts SLO will have on Halton youth. Trustee Wang and I are proposing a student consultation group at the school level to provide insight, guidance, and direction to the Halton Regional Police, SLOs, and administrators to tailor their programs and presentations to the specific needs, wants, and experiences of the respected school and students, to develop a program that is mindful of a student's lived experience. This consultation group will provide a platform for ongoing discussion to find the most appropriate and effective means to engage students within our schools while bridging the gap between youth and police. This will ensure and enable SLOs to build meaningful connections for youth engagement, education, and community building. This consultation group is in its very early stages, but we look forward to continuing our work with Superintendent Fowler, the HRPS, and the HDSB Student Equity Team.
And speaking of the student equity team, Trustee Ruggiero and I have reached out to students who were involved in the initial stages of building this committee, and we're happy to say that the interest is still going strong. We are working with the students and staff involved to organize an initial meeting, which we see happening very soon, and our goals are to envision how this committee will start up and operate for the remainder of the year. We are so excited to be bringing students into equity discussions at a board level. If any student is interested in joining this committee, keep an eye out for future announcements on how to get involved. And on that topic, if any students have any questions or suggestions regarding the Student Equity Committee, Student Senate, or anything that influences the student experience, please feel free to reach out to Trustee Ruggiero and I by email or through our Student Trustee Instagram accounts. We're happy to answer any questions, listen to suggestions, and help the best we can.
In closing, we look forward to working with staff, parents, students as we begin the HDSB Student Senate. Trustee Wang and I encourage all students to check out the amazing work Student Senate has done and reach out to your administrators for more information on how to apply. No matter your experience, if you're passionate about student voice and want to collaborate to support student voice, you are qualified to be a senator. We look forward to seeing you at our first Senate meeting on October 18th and updating everyone on our advocacy work. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the trustees have questions for our student trustees? Seeing none, I have one. So Trustee Ruggiero and Trustee Wang, you spoke about creating consultation groups for your student liaison officer. How are you looking at doing that to ensure you get the voice of all the students at the school?
Through the chair to the chair, that's a great question. Right now, it's really in its early stages. We want to make sure that our most marginalized and vulnerable students are a part of that discussion when SLOs come and present to a school. And so we're working with, this kind of coincides with the HDSB Student Senate standardization project or process, as these administrators can pull on their student senators to help select students to be a part of this group, to ensure that our most marginalized voices and vulnerable students can be a part of the discussion. So it's really going to be through our senator, and they can kind of help administrators connect to different students. And our senator and the process of becoming a senator is right now being reviewed. So it's a great opportunity for students of all backgrounds and identities to get involved, but we hope for administrators to consider that.
All right, thank you. And again, thank you so much for that great presentation. It's really wonderful to hear how engaged, how excited you are at looking at the future. And I look forward to coming to your first Senate meeting on the 18th. So thank you so much, both of you. Alrighty then, we are now up to item 6.0, ratification and action items. And we'll start with 6.1, ratification of business transacted in private session. Vice Chair Harrison, do we have any business from private session that requires approval?
Yes, Madam Chair, there are two motions.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board appoint the architectural firm of Hossack and Associates Architect to prepare the design and tender documents for the proposed new Oakville No. 5 Public School and Milton No. 13 Public School, both with child cares, and I so move.
Thank you. And Trustee Amos, would you like to second that?
Yes, I would happily like to second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or debate surrounding this motion? All right, if everybody could please cast their vote. Thank you very much, and that passes unanimously. Vice Chair Harrison, you said there was a second.
Yes, indeed. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board appoint the architectural firm of Snyder Architects to prepare the design and tender documents, as well as provide construction management services for the interior renovations and accessibility upgrades for Thomas A. Blakelock High School, and I so move.
And Trustee Rocha, would you like to second that, please?
I would, thanks.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or debate on this motion? Seeing none, if you can all go to your voting system and please vote. Yep. Thank you very much, and by unanimous consent, that is approved. We are now up to item 6.2 for action for September the 21st, 2022. And item 6.2.1, Facility Services School Renewal Program for the 2022-2023 school year. Report number 22067. Superintendent Gaudette, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. Good evening through the chair to all trustees. This report is similar to the one that was presented last year that outlines a breakdown for our planned school renewal program as well as our school condition improvement program. The ministry announced funding very early in the year in February, and our allocation went up approximately $2.5 million. And so we brought this for information in June, and unfortunately I missed getting it for action in June. So it's coming back here in September for your approval.
All right, thank you very much. Do any trustees have any questions? I'll read the motion first. Be it resolved that the Halton District School Board authorize staff to tender and award the 2022-2023 Facility Services Project Operations and Maintenance either individually or combined as outlined in Report 22067. Trustee Daniele, would you like to move that motion?
Thank you. Yes, I would.
And Trustee Gray, would you like to second that?
Yes, I would.
All right. Questions? Trustee Gray, you were on the speaker's list.
Yes, thank you very much, through the chair. You've just mentioned that the increase of $2 to $2.5 million over years previous. Would you be able to comment if this is actually keeping pace with the rising costs of doing business now?
Thank you for the question through the chair to trustees. That's a difficult question given how variable and volatile the market has been. I'll say in the short term, probably not. Things like fuel prices, if you take that as an example, we saw it escalate very quickly, is coming back down, but it is still higher. And I think that's what we're experiencing in the construction market is that the cost of supplies have gone up. They have stabilized in some cases, but not to their pre-pandemic prices. So I do think that we are experiencing cost pressures that we're trying to insulate ourselves from as we proceed with our work to add greater contingencies and plan for overages and take from the market when we're going out for tender a bit, a broader reality check and collaborate with other team members to keep an ear to the ground as to what's going on, which commodities are hurting us more than helping us.
Thank you. Follow-up? Yeah, I just have a follow-up comment, and that is to say that often we see in the media that it's a good news story that there's an increase of so many millions of dollars flooding into education and helping school boards and so on and so forth. But the reality is, as you have suggested, that the increasing cost doesn't really mean that $2 to $2.5 million in this example actually is an increase for the board. It just is an attempt to try to keep up with maybe the figures that we would have been given the year before and probably even a couple of years earlier. And I guess I hearken back to our work as a Board of Trustees on fair funding for the Halton District School Board, the fact that the school board is, of course, always the last or the second last in the amount of money that it receives in its GSN out of 72 school boards in the province. And that's been the way for 15 years. And I know a couple of years ago, we looked at a chart that showed that we were falling further behind the median cost in the GSN or the grant of the GSN across school boards in Ontario. So it continues. But I just wanted to have that clarified for the public that though it's an increase, it doesn't really mean all that it sounds to mean, unlike what the press or even the spin would be from the Ministry of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gray. Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. If people in the community were interested in tracking or seeing what projects are taking place in each school, I understand that we have HTSD builds on our website, and is that kept up to date?
Yes, thank you for the question. And through the chair to trustees, it is kept up to date. I will admit we are experiencing a bit of a staff interruption on my team. We've got a few people on extended leave, but that is one of our critical functions that we are trying to monitor and ensure it is updated. So as we wrap up projects, we work alongside our communications team and IT to ensure that the HDSB and our construction website is kept up to date with projects that we're wrapping up.
All right, seeing no further questions, I will put the motion up, and if you can please cast your votes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and that carries it unanimously. Thank you very much, Superintendent Gaudette. All right, we are now up to item 6.2.2, Training Outcomes Reports and Recommendations, report number 22094, Vice Chair Harrison and myself, Chair Shuttleworth. But I will pass the microphone over to Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, we discussed this report at Committee of the Whole, and so I'm happy to field any questions, but in terms of meeting efficiency, I won't go into it at this time.
All right, so I'll read the motion and then open the floor for debate. So be it resolved that the chair, in collaboration with the director, write a letter to the Minister of Education regarding Section 264(1)(c) of the Education Act, requesting that this section be revoked and replaced with a clause that is inclusive of Ontario's diverse population. Vice Chair Harrison, would you like to move that motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
And Trustee Amos, would you like to second that?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much.
All right. Is there any debate? Seeing none, if you can pop on over to your machines and cast your votes, please.
Point of order. The item that is showing up on our screen doesn't match what the item is.
Yes, and vote. There we go. There we are. There you go. Sorry, please cast your votes. Wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone. And that again passes unanimously. All right, that brings us up to item 6.2.3, Trustee Operations Policy, report number 22108, Trustee Rocha and Trustee Collard on behalf of the Governance Standing Committee. Trustee Rocha, would you like to speak to this?
I'm going to defer to Trustee Collard.
Trustee Collard?
Yes, thank you. Through you to the Board of Trustees.
Trustee Collard, I'm not sure if you can hear us here, but your screen has frozen.
My apologies, I keep losing my connection.
Oh, the joys of technology.
Turn off our video.
Yeah, Trustee Collard, maybe if you turn your video off, that might help. The bandwidth might be lower.
Okay, we'll try that.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This was originally brought to the board back in May, and we sent it for legal review. Legal review returned with no recommended changes to the policy, and so it's before us tonight to be approved.
All right, thank you very much. I will now read the motion and open the floor again to debate. Be it resolved that the Trustee Operations Policy appended to Report 22108 be adopted. And Trustee Collard, would you like to move that?
Yes, please.
And Trustee Rocha, would you like to second it?
I would.
Right. Is there any debate? All right, seeing none, if you can please pop on over to Questron and cast your votes, please. Wonderful, thank you so much, and that carries unanimously. Okay, moving right along, we're up to item 6.2.4, election of chair and vice chair governance procedure, report number 22106. Trustee Rocha and Trustee Collard on behalf of the Governance Standing Committee. Trustee Collard, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you. This was brought forward again in May of this year, went to committee of the whole, and some changes were requested. One of the changes that was requested was that we add an extra step in the election of the chair in the case of a tie, and we received notification from legal that that was not within our purview. We have to follow the Education Act and draw a name on the first instance of a tie between two. So that's been taken out. The rest of the document is, I believe, almost identical to what we saw before. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or debate? That's all right. Seeing none? If you can pop on over to Questron and cast your votes, please. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, that passes unanimously. Okay, up to item 6.2.5, appending definitions to the policy and procedure framework, report number 22105, Trustee Rocha and Trustee Collard on behalf of this Governance Standing Committee. And again, Trustee Collard, it's a busy night for you. Would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you very much. This is the new methodology for storing definitions for all of the policies and procedures of the board, to have them in one place so that they're easily found by anyone who's searching for definitions. And so all definitions are being appended to the policy and procedure framework policy. And this is the first addition to that list because they're being removed from the bylaws, so they have to be in the framework policy. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I know that Manager Carrillo would also be able to answer questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there any questions for either Trustee Collard or General Manager Carrillo concerning this item? Seeing none, you can pop on over to Questron once again and cast your votes, please.
Right. Point of order. Someone needs to, it's me.
Oh, sorry, I didn't put
to move the motion. Yeah.
I'm sorry. All right, so, sorry. Be it resolved that the board approve the policies and procedures definition appended to report 22105, and that the policy and procedure definitions be appended to the policy and procedure framework. Trustee Collard, would you like to move that motion?
Yes, I'd be happy to, thanks.
Thank you. And Trustee Rocha, again, second it?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. So we started voting, so I'm going to clear it. We'll start again. And once again, sorry about the mishap. Can you cast your votes, please? Thank you very much. And once again, that carries unanimously. Okay, finally, we're up to item 6.2.6, Board Governance Bylaw, report number 22104, Trustee Rocha and Trustee Collard on behalf of the Governance Standing Committee. Trustee Rocha, would you like to speak to this?
I would, thank you. So through the chair, this is the final version of the revised board governance bylaw. As you recall, we originally brought it to the board in April with a first draft with the recommendation to go to legal. Legal has since reviewed the revised work, provided suggestions. Those recommendations were covered off at last week's Committee of the Whole, and what is being presented tonight is the final version of the bylaws. And if anyone has any questions, thank you.
Wonderful. So I'm going to read the motion. and then we'll open the floor to debate. So be it resolved that the board governance bylaw as appended to report number 22104 be adopted by the Halton District School Board, Board of Trustees, and that all previous versions of the procedure bylaw be hereby revoked. Trustee Rocha, would you like to move that motion?
I would, thanks.
And Trustee Collard, would you like to second that?
Yes, very much so.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions or debate regarding this motion? Oh. Trustee Gray.
Thank you very much, through the chair. I just wanted to, it's not a question, I just wanted to make a comment that an awful lot of work has gone in to this review and with the bylaws and also getting it to legal. And I just want to publicly thank the folks, particularly Tanya Rocha and Amy Collard and all the others who worked on this to get us to where we are today. It's a tremendous amount of work, but hugely important work for us as a Board of Trustees. So thank you for your time and efforts on our behalfs.
Thank you very much. Seeing no further questions, please pop on over to Questron and cast your votes, please. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And once again, that passes unanimously. And that brings us to the end of... Huh? Oh. I'm sorry. So we are now up to item 6.2.7, the Joint Election Compliance Audit Committee with Dsb, report number 22098. Director Ennis and Superintendent Nagoy. Superintendent Nagoy, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you. And through the chair to all trustees, as past practice in an election year and in accordance with the Municipal Elections Act, the board is required to have a compliance audit committee established by October 1st. And the terms of reference are included within the report. As with past practice, the external members of the audit committees of both boards have been asked to participate in this committee and have accepted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Superintendent Nagoy regarding this motion? Thank you. I will now read the motion. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the draft terms of reference appended to report 22098 with respect to establishing a joint election compliance audit committee with the Halton Catholic District School Board for the 2022 to 2026 term of office as defined in the Municipal Education Act of 1996. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees delegate responsibility to the Director of Education for the selection and appointment of 2 members to the Joint Compliance Audit Committee on behalf of the Halton District School Board for a term beginning November the 15th, 2022 and ending November 14th, 2026. Trustee Reynolds, would you like to move that motion?
Thank you for asking. Yes, I will.
Thank you very much. And Trustee Daniele, would you like to second that?
Yes, thank you, I will.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or debate regarding this motion? Vice Chair Harrison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I just have a comment regarding the terms of reference, which currently states that the committee will render its decision in accordance with the Act. The committee must come to consensus, and decisions of the committee shall be the will of the majority. It's my understanding that consensus and voting, such as what we do under Robert's Rules of Order, are 2 different and distinct decision-making methodologies or formats. So since it references voting again further down in the terms of reference, it's my proposal for clarity just to strike the words that say consensus. that you stick with just voting? Unless it's words that are taken from somewhere else.
So it is in accordance with the regulation, and it has been vetted by legal. My understanding is that in a tie situation, there's further discussions that will take place and majority will rule. So there will be additional discussions. So I think consensus and majority go hand in hand with the process of breaking the tie within a committee with even representation. That was my understanding from legal, and hence the two wordings in the terms.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Are there any further questions for Superintendent Ngoy? All right, seeing none, if you can pop on over to Questrom and cast your votes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And once again, that passes unanimously. So that brings us to the end of item 6, which I really want to thank specifically Trustee Rocha and Trustee Collard for the bulk of the work that they did for that item, or those many items. So thank you very much. Okay, we are now up to item 7.0, communication to the board, and we'll start with item 7.1, which is the long-term, 7.1.1, which is the long-term accommodation plan, which will come back to the board for August the 26th. October the 26th. Maybe we can go back in time, but not this time. So Superintendent Godet and Director Ennis.
Thank you so much, Chair Shuttleworth. I'm going to ask General Manager Thibault to take this over.
Thank you through Chair Shuttleworth to the Board of Trustees. So I'm happy to present this year's, the 2021-2022 long-term accommodation plan, the re-envisioned document that the planning team has been working quite diligently on, along with senior staff, facility services, and yourselves, trustees, at the several committee of the whole meetings that you've assisted us in directing this vision and this rebranding for the document. So we are pleased to present this. We're hoping that this new format is going to spur a different kind of engagement with our constituents and the people that we're planning for these school accommodations, and trying to make it a more accessible document that they can really jump into. So for this year, the main focus was how do we rebrand, redesign, and work towards this document. And then this year's goal is going to be further enhancing the information we have for facility services, but also focusing more on the engagement piece now that the design and rebrand is done. So that's our focus for this year. But that said, we are going to be releasing this to the public. It is part of the agenda, and we're looking to do some minor tweaks between now and when it's approved, between now and October 26th. We're looking to go out for feedback next week. And gather some feedback with a focus on what do they think of the plan, how are they navigating through it, what do they think of the actions taking place in their respective neighborhoods and communities, and we're going to see how and have a little bit of a test on how that's going. To assist with that, acknowledging it is a very large document, as part of the feedback process, we did create a little bit of an app that they can use, and we'll pilot this where they can just enter their address and it'll return what part of the plan affects them. So then they can do some wayfinding, and this will be continually enhanced. Just to recap some of the new things that we've done for the LTAP for this year, I'll mention it again, is the new branding format and trying to very select targeted information as to what we want to present, just so that we can keep on subject of why these things are happening in the community and what's assisting us in making those decisions. We're incorporating the facility services portfolio to it, so talking about key performance indicators in areas of schools. We're talking about the condition and trying to present that data, and then that'll inform future decision making. And a couple other things is looking at birth or JK trends, trying to be a little bit more visual in how we display trends for secondary panel in terms of the retention rates and other such things like that. So in terms of next steps, like I mentioned, we're going to be launching the feedback for next week. And afterwards, we're going to let that open or leave that open to the public to respond to. Then we'll come back to the committee of the whole At the October 19th meeting, we'll present that feedback and have a general discussion on the plan. And then we're hoping to present this for approval on October 26th. At that same meeting, we'll also be presenting the bound reviews we're anticipating for this school year, which will then come back for the November 2nd board meeting for approval, and then we'll be kickstarting some of those processes. Happy to take any questions with regards to the document and any other feedback that you may have.
Thank you. So we do have a question from Trustee Oliver.
Thank you, through you, Chair, to General Manager Thibault. It's actually a comment. I just want to say this is an excellent format. Thank you very much. It's not only is it informative, but it's also very engaging and very interesting to follow. And your idea of an app is just brilliant. So thank you very much for this. It's a huge improvement over, what we're used to from a few years ago. And I think it'll be make things much easier, not only for trustees, but for the members of the general public to get the information that they're looking for. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, General Manager Thibault, for coming to the board. We will see you again on the 26th. I'm sure we'll see you before, and I'm sure you might come back tonight. Okay, we are now up to item 7.1.2, School Naming Policy and Governance Procedure. Trustee Rocha and Trustee Collard on behalf of the School Naming and Renaming Subcommittee. Trustee Rocha, can I pass it over to you?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair, to the rest of the trustees. The report we bring forth tonight includes the proposed policy and procedure for school naming and renaming. The work presented here was in collaboration with a working group that consisted of trustees Amos, Daniele, Gray, Oliver, and myself. The work put forth tonight was shared with you all at last week's Committee of the Whole. Your feedback was taken into consideration and implemented here. You will notice again that the biggest gain in this revision is the governance procedure that has been streamlined has been streamlined. And in accordance with our bylaw and our policy and procedures, this is being presented twice to the board for decision making. So it is making its first appearance tonight, and it will be brought forward again on October 12th for its second reading. I do want to make one amendment that you will see, and this was based on additional feedback. If I can point you to the board policy section 2A, we have received feedback to add some additional language to that line. It currently reads, proposed school names must reflect a positive image for the HDSB, and we're going to add reflect a positive image for the HDSB students, staff, and community. So that change will be reflected on the October, why do I have a hard time remembering it? October 12th reading. And if there are any questions, thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Rocha. Does anybody have any questions for this committee? Seeing none, thank you so much. I'm sure we will all do some reading over the next couple of weeks when it comes back to the board on October 12th for decision. All right, so as item 7.1.3 has been deferred for this evening, we are now up to 7.2, information reports for September the 21st, 2022. First up is the quarterly capital update, report number 22097. Superintendent Godet, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Hello again. This report is presented quarterly, trying to capture our capital priority work for the most part, as well as other projects that are of interest. And so the reports before you, I'm going to skim through Appendix A and just hit some highlights. Elsie McGill, we have completed the turf field and the track, and this will be removed from future quarterly updates as we're just wrapping up deficiency work at the site. Rattlesnake Point, I do want to acknowledge and say thanks to the many staff that worked long hours and weekends and various departments, IT, facilities staff, the school staff, superintendents. Thanks for everybody's support to pull that off. It was not an easy feat and lots of hard work, and that project continues. But I wanted to acknowledge the effort, the many people put into that. Milton Southwest, number 12, as we discussed earlier, we seem to be not able to receive some steel that has stalled the construction for 2 months. So foundations are in, but no vertical members are going up. We believe the steel to be at the bottom of a vessel somewhere in the Atlantic. Milton Southwest 13 and Oakville number 5, you heard about already. Oakville number 3 is going to tender. The Oakville High School is proceeding through design. Frontenac has also been completed and will be removed. We're wrapping up deficiencies there as well. And then of particular note, I wanted to acknowledge that Irma Colson is wrapping up, and there is a ribbon cutting ceremony on October 6th. Very exciting. If you can, come view this. Exciting outdoor project. It is garnering provincial interest. So there's a lot of other boards that are interested in this. There will be some media attention as well. So very exciting what we're doing at Irma Colson. And in future, I will be adding T.A. Blakelock to this update. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Godet. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Point of order. We skipped 7.1.3. The decision has been deferred, but not the discussion. We can still have discussion of this item tonight. And I would like to ask that we actually discuss this tonight.
So, Trustee Collard, during the beginning of the meeting, Trustee Rocha said for it to be deferred till the next meeting.
The decision is being deferred, not the discussion. Yeah, you have to remember, I've missed sections of the meeting because I keep losing my connection.
Right. So, Trustee Rocha, would you like to just quickly fill Trustee Collard in?
Trustee Collard, due to some items that were brought to my attention earlier today, I made the decision to request the deferral to the next meeting. But I can fill you in, as we're both part of the governance committee, so I'll fill you in on the details.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was very confused. Thank you.
Thank you. It's never a good meeting until you've had a couple hiccups. So thank you so much. So Superintendent Godet, I don't think you're finished. So because we're now on 7.2.2. Viola Desmond Primary School Student Redirection, report number 220100. General Manager Thibault, you're taking the stand.
Through Chair Shuttleworth, yes, I'm back. So I just want to inform the Board of Trustees of a redirection that we had to do for Viola Desmond Public School in their attendance area. The week before school start near the end, we were informed that the organizations for the Viola Desmond for staffing, they had reached their peak and they weren't able to add any additional classrooms at that time. So in order to address that, as we're going kind of through this whole repatriation of students back to their home schools after we completed the Milton 11 and 12 boundary review, we did a redirection to other schools that had some available capacity in their existing organizational charts for staffing. Some of the criteria we looked at is how do we adhere to the boundary review that we've completed as best we can, what schools have space, what schools are within the neighborhood fabric, so that they're still within close proximity to their schools, and what was a fourth? Oh, reduce reliance on transportation need as much as possible. So for that, the outcome that we reviewed a couple options where we had available schools, and the best ones were Boyne Public School, which is within the same concession block as Viola Desmond. So the area is rather walkable and there's minimal transportation needs. And another area is being redirected to PL Robertson, which is a sliver that was being transitioned back into PL Robertson from Viola Desmond. So those were the 3 to 8 students. So now we're just allowing them to continue on. So it's almost just advancing that quicker than we had phased in. So we're reviewing that for this current year as we're getting registrations in. We'll reassess as we're doing our projections for next year to see how long the redirection will last. And we'll report back to the board if it's to continue or whatnot. So for the time being, this is in place. And yes, happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Trustee Garrett, so you're up first.
Thank you, through you, Chair, to General Manager Thibault. Thanks for the report. It's unfortunate that we are continually busting at the seams. And then, we get reports earlier today that steel is somewhere coming across the Atlantic. We don't have control over that. However, it's certainly an indication that we need to start working way further ahead and work with our partners at the provincial level to get schools built quicker. And the red tape that we have to go through, such as Trustee Amos mentioned earlier with the Oakville schools. I know that's not on your platter, but I've heard from the constituents a lot in the last couple of weeks. Fair enough, when they move into a neighborhood and they're living right next door to the school or right across the street from the school, and their child can't attend that school because it's full. There's nothing we can do. We can't add more portables, but hopefully we'll just stay on top of the building of schools quickly and try and stay afloat, I suppose. But thank you for your efforts. I really do appreciate it.
I have one question. How many families were affected? So what was the sort of the population that had to move?
Through Chair Shuttleworth, to respond to that, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I do know that in terms of the transported students, what I had is about 10 students. But that is not all encompassing of all the families that may be in close proximity. So I unfortunately don't have the number with me tonight. But what I can say is that everybody that registered up to September 2nd was in. It's all the late registrations that happened. So I'm hoping that it's smaller, but I can definitely report that back or provide that information via email.
So then follow up. So then all of the moves were for people that hadn't started at the school yet. So there was no movements from students from within the school.
That's correct. That's just to clarify, it's any new registration from that effective date. So it's, yeah. And then I think there was only one sibling incident, but I think that was since resolved. So for the most part, it's just new registrations in the area.
All right. Thank you very much. I see no other questions. So thank you so much. All right. Our next item is 7.2.3, Joint Election Compliance Audit Committee with H. We did, it moved. Sorry. Two hiccups. I thought you were coming back. So we're now up to item 7.3, notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion for this evening? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call a recess for 15 minutes before we move into the director's report. So it is 8:53, so if we can aim to be back here for about 9:05. That's, sorry, I can change it, 8:53, sorry, we'll say 9:10. 9:10 sounds good, so we'll see everybody at 9:10. Thank you very much. Two. Item 7.4, the director's report. And we have on your list, Director Ennis, the school bus camera pilot resumption, National Truth and Reconciliation Day, and of course the ominous other. So I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair Shuttleworth, and good evening, everyone. It is the third week of school. It's hard to believe that we are in week 3, and schools are up and running, and we have a lot of exciting things happening in our schools. We are committed to our learning and our achievement, equity and inclusion, our Indigenous perspectives and awareness, environmental leadership, mental health and well-being, and all of our commitments in our multi-year strategic plan. And our schools and our school leaders are working hard on their school improvement planning and doing a fantastic job. So great things are happening in our schools, for which we're all grateful. Of course, led by our superintendents who lead our school leaders as their class. So we thank them for all of their hard work and guidance and support. First up, I'm going to ask Superintendent Ngoy to speak to school bus camera.
Thank you, Director Ennis, and for the chair to all trustees. You will recall that last year we have started a school bus interior camera pilot, and as a result of various COVID restrictions, we had to ensure that bus drivers are addressing other school routes, which may not have been on the initial communicated list. So we had to pause the pilot, and we are happy to inform you that we are going to be restarting between October 17th and November 18th, just to finish the period that we have committed to. We will be communicating to our school administrators and school communities later in this month, and we have about 30 schools that are going to be part of this pilot. A few of them are new just because of how the routes have worked out this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Ngoy. Next up, some of you may have noticed that I am wearing a beautifully beaded orange shirt that was given to me as a gift by Tammy and by Gabby. And I'm going to ask Superintendent Petko if she could just come forward at this time and speak to National Truth and Reconciliation Day.
Thank you, Director Ennis, through Chair Shuttleworth, to all trustees. Thank you for mentioning your beaded orange shirt. Just so you know that these pins were gifted to us by Nancy Rowe, who is, some of you are nodding your heads, beautiful teacher, mother, elder, and we went to her roundhouse before school started during the first week for some professional learning, and that was our Indigenous Rights and Education team. A wonderful day to recommit to the work that we're doing. So we thought it was appropriate in the director's report to mention, but also reiterate what that commitment looks like, given that next Friday is the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. Of course, clearly, our goal to integrate Indigenous rights and education, Indigenous awareness and perspectives is captured in our multi-year strategic plan. But it is so essential and important, not just because next Friday is the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, because it's not meant to be in the forefront of our minds on one day, but it's a commitment throughout the year and a long-term one. We know, I love what Trustee Wang said, which was, let me share what our goals into action looks like. And so what I wanted to share in that spirit is what just a few high-level highlights of what the Halton District School Board's commitment to action is in supporting the work of realizing meaningful truth and reconciliation. And so at the system level, for example, we do have our Indigenous policy, Indigenous rights and education policy going forward for legal review. Certainly, As a board, we've committed to the importance of this work by new hires. So we do have a larger team now that includes a system principal in Indigenous rights and education. We've added 4 itinerant resource teachers and 2 student coordinators who are identify Indigenous themselves, as well as a Halton District School Board community member who identifies as Indigenous. Our commitment is deep. At the school level, there are many actions happening. For example, professional learning for our administrators and our school teams, working through the journey, because everyone is on a different step in the journey for this work. Direct support for our Indigenous students who identify as such from our itinerant teachers and our student coordinators. And then also board-wide learning, collaborative inquiries, professional learning, that's all being mobilized by our team. And our hope is that those in our school community don't just rely on going to our Indigenous rights and education team as resources, that at some point, every individual and staff member committed to this work in our buildings may lead the work for others. So in that spirit, one thing I do want to mention, Director Ennis will be doing a video message for us that will go out on September 30th, which will be lovely, that it will lend his strong voice in this work. I invite you and I urge you to reflect upon what the true meaning of truth and reconciliation is. It is not a day of celebration and just wearing an orange shirt, but it's about the commitment to take words and put them into action. And let me finally say that do not underestimate the power of small moves and small actions. And this has been reiterated at our senior team, but with our schools through our department. But do not underestimate that. And I also want to say finally that this work we have committed to do in collaboration with all departments. So in programming, professional learning, mental health and well-being, special education, safe schools, just to name a few, because this cannot be seen as an individual singular pillar that's done through the work of one department. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent Petco. As you are aware, a school in the Halton District School Board has received significant attention online in the news over the past several days. Guided by our commitment in the multi-year strategic plan and our commitment to the Human Rights, Equity, Action, Accountability Plan, the way forward, the Halton District School Board has aimed to handle this attention in a way that stays true to our values, respects the privacy and dignity of our students and staff, and with the safety and well-being of students and staff as our highest priority. As staff, we are guided by numerous legislation and also fundamentally by the privacy and confidentiality of each of our 10,000 employees. While I understand the desire for information by the public, we will not and cannot publicly discuss any matter that identifies our staff directly or indirectly. I trust the public will understand the parameters that guide us. Also, I would like to take a moment out to recognize the passing of Mr. Bruce Dow, a crossing guard at Kings Road Public School, who passed away after serving faithfully for almost 6 years and dutifully in escorting students and staff safely, to and from school. So I'd like to pause and take a moment to reflect upon the life and the service of Mr. Dow. Thank you. And Chair, that ends my report for tonight.
Thank you very much. Vice Chair Harrison, do you have anything to say?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do. Director Ennis, the second last item in your director's report, as you pointed out, there has been a lot of attention on HDSB in the past number of days, and many questions coming forward through members of this community and beyond. And I read each and every email that I receive. Some of them have been quite nasty, from groups far beyond the borders of Canada, described as hate groups. So it has been an interesting time, to say the least. However, in my role, it is important to hear and try and understand what people are asking. And on that basis, I would like to put forward the following motion for consideration by my colleagues. And that motion is as follows. Be it resolved that the director be requested to return to the board by November 2022 with a report addressing the various considerations regarding dress codes. And I can move that motion and...
Trustee Rocha, would you like to second that?
I would, thank you.
Are there any discussions or debate concerning this motion? All right, seeing none, we're just going to give it a couple seconds to pop into the system, please. Okay, if you can pop on over to Questron to please cast your vote. And that carries unanimously. Director Ennis, we look forward to that report in November.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Shuttleworth.
And further to that, I know many of us and all of us, as Vice Chair Harrison has said, have received many, many questions, some in not such a kind manner, but others that were respectful and deserved attention. So many of these have been hopefully covered by this motion. And if not, they are HR-related issues, which restricts us in what we are able to say at this moment in time. But please know that those questions that are asked in a respectful and courteous manner are passed on to the senior team for further discussion. Thank you very much. We are now up to item 7.5, which is communication from the chair. And there are two letters attached to the agenda, a letter to the Treasury Board from YRDSB regarding executive compensation, as well as a letter from AMDSB regarding education funding. Those are attached to your agenda if you would like to have any further information regarding those. That brings us up to item 7.6, committee reports. I have no committee reports that have been sent in, but just checking if there are any committees that have reports for us this evening. Seeing none, that brings us up to item 7.7, trustee questions and comments. Do any trustees have any questions or comments that haven't already been answered during this meeting? It's that wait time. Okay, so that brings us up to item Oh, sorry, I'm not on the right screen. There we go. Sorry, Trustee Grebenz.
Thank you, Chair Shuttleworth. Mine is a comment, and that is actually a reminder to actually it's interesting. I would actually like to see the civics curriculum change a little bit in our schools to really understand the difference between governance and operations. And it's not just something that's in a school board situation. It actually is relevant in municipal and other levels of government. But just an understanding for people out there that the Board of Trustees has a single employee. That is the Director of Education. That is it. We do not have any other employees or purview on to anything else in the board. So it's, again, I would really like the curriculum to, and I know that's not in our purview to change the curriculum, but perhaps it's something that could be brought to the attention of the Ministry of Education, that this is a critical element, especially since people are running for positions across the province right now in municipal and school boards. In the elections, to understand actually what their role is in when they actually get these positions. Because the more they know going into the job, the more streamlined and heading towards a common goal that people can do. Sorry, I lost my words there, but so that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Grebenz. Trustee Rocha.
Through you, Chair. The board has a recreational use of cannabis products policy, yet I've heard from many parents and students across the board that vaping in high school bathrooms is a pervasive problem. What steps are we taking to stop this behavior and to ensure our own students can safely use bathrooms without being subjected to secondhand vape aerosol?
Through the chair, I'm going to ask Superintendent Fowler.
Thank you. And through your chair, Shuttleworth, to you, Trustee Rocha. I do want to agree that the health and safety, of course, of our students is our top priority. We definitely do have policies related to vaping and e-cigarettes, and we do work to ensure that students and families are made aware of these policies. As you may or may not know, the Smoke-Free Ontario Act from 2017 does mandate that there's to be no smoking or vaping within 20 meters of any school property. So when you share with us that there is vaping happening in the bathrooms, that obviously is a direct infraction of the Smoke-Free Ontario Act, and it is something that we do encourage our students to report so that corrective action can be taken. Just so we can all understand, students who are found vaping on the property could receive a suspension from the school, and there could also be fines imposed by a bylaw officer. I will say that our program does speak to the education of students around vaping, because we really feel that unfortunately it is a pervasive problem, and it certainly has been something that the product is almost designed to engage students at a very young age. So what we're trying to do now is really work with the public health department in order to target children at a much younger age. So rather than waiting until they are actually vaping, really trying to get the messaging out there. So we actually have a robust educational program that has curricular connections in a variety of areas. But I will also say that we're working closely with public health to update these and to seek new and more engaging ways to get the information and the messaging across. So it can be addressed through the code of conduct. So I would really encourage families who have those concerns to continue to reach out to their schools and let their schools know so that we can target those particular locations.
Follow-up? Could I jump in and add one more bit? We do have an administrator guide to vaping prevention in schools, which is best practices for administrators to follow. We do issue that annually as well through Safe Schools. So Brent has that and leads some of that work. I'm just jumping in, Superintendent Fowler. I hope you don't.
No
7
problem.
years. I can't help it. This also ensures like a common approach across our schools. We don't want it to be like a 10-day suspension in one school and 3 warnings in another school. So through that document, we calibrate our schools and take, just as Superintendent Fowler said, an educative approach, but also consequences if and when needed, because safety in the washrooms is a big issue.
A follow-up? So thank you for that, and I'm glad we're taking a joint approach. Is there anything else we can do as far as communicating with parents to let them know what the repercussions are for their student if they, one, repercussions of vaping, but also the penalties, the punitive consequences of that?
Thank you, Trustee Rocha, and through you, Chair Shuttleworth, to trustees. We do actually on the Halton District School Board webpage, there is a section there for families, and it does talk about, ways they can talk to their children about vaping. But your question is, it has been heard, and then I really do think that we could do a little bit more of a focused campaign to provide additional information and supports to families, as well as our education to students. So I will take that back, and I will work with our administrators in order to provide supports and resources that they can then share with their school communities. And again, just really encouraging students to reach out and to talk to their administrators if they do have a specific issue that they notice in the washrooms. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Ruggiero.
Thank you. Through the chair to Trustee Rocha, I really appreciate you bringing up this issue. This is one of the most issues that we've heard about, Trustee Wang and I, from particularly our senators. Vaping on school premises really is detrimental to student learning, but also creating a safe and equitable environment for all students. Particularly at my school, I've gotten feedback about students being afraid to enter the washrooms, that they don't feel safe. So I really like the approach that we're looking to have a more proactive way to contact parents, but also inform students about the dangers of vaping. So I think that is just a great point that we're doing at the board to ensure that students can feel safe when they use the washrooms. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Oliver.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to follow up on that discussion. I'm pleased to hear that there's a partnership with public health, and I'm pleased to hear that younger students will be taught about the health risks of vaping. I do want to address the other side of the issue, and that is a number of years ago, we had a youth council that did a presentation to the board around their suggestions on what's required to address vaping. And they spoke to the issue of addictions and the punitive actions and how they may be harmful to the student. So we do know that vaping is often the lesser of evils, in that students who suffer from mental health issues, anxiety, whatever it might be, engage in vaping as a way to deal with their stress or any issues or obstacles in their lives. And so a punitive action is not the best way to proceed. And so I'd like to hear, what are we doing to support students who truly are afflicted with an addiction and require those supports? We know that mental health and social service supports are lacking in our communities due to funding and other issues. And so they're not very accessible to many families and students. Students also often vape in hiding, so their families might not even be aware in order to be able to support them, right, with those kinds of supports and resources. So this is where school plays an important role in that we are often that first point of contact. So the question is, what should we be doing, and are we looking at that aspect of the issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Oliver. I'll start, but if there are colleagues of mine that also want to jump in, please feel free to join. So through you, Chair Shuttleworth, to Trustee Oliver. One of the things that I mentioned earlier really is that we are coming at this typically from an educational standpoint. That is our number one goal because of the exact facts that you've shared here. We do know that sometimes that doesn't always get us to the desired outcome. But if while we're educating someone and we're taking the time to really listen and to understand the reasons why and working with their families, because of course families will be informed and brought into the conversation. One of the things that we do offer is through the region of Halton, we do have a number of resources that support students in quitting smoking or vaping. Those are actually, I think they're available again on the website, so they would be a resource that we would share. And I'm thinking about things like the Halton region offers resources like as the Stop Smoking Clinic, Quit for Life, Break It Off, My Last Dip, and then of course Kids Help Phone. In addition to that, if we do have a student who's expressing, some needs around mental health supports that are required, we do have professionals that do work to support our schools, and we do have a series of mental health, really wonderful mental health team that's made up of social workers and CYCs, et cetera, and those people would be deployed and are available as well to talk with students. But again, it would be their mental health and well-being that we would be focusing on, and perhaps trying to work with their family and them in order to find out a way to resolve it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I see no further questions on the list. Okay, so that brings us up to item 7.8, public questions. During the pandemic, we made a commitment to ensure that on the HDSB website, there is a button on the live stream page, as there is a link at the bottom of tonight's agenda to allow members of the public to ask questions of the board. As a reminder, if visitors and media have questions, please submit your questions through the electronic question submission form on the website. Posters are around the room with the QR code linked directly to the form. We remind all visitors and media to remain seated. Questions received may be answered during this meeting, particularly those related to agenda items, or at the following meeting at the discretion of the chair. For efficiency, multiple questions received that are similar in nature may be grouped together at the discretion of the chair and/or the vice chair. Questions will not be attributed. When necessary, a notation will be made that multiple people ask the same question. Any question that contains language that is hateful or discriminatory will not be considered. So, Vice Chair Harrison, I know many of the questions may have already been answered through the director's report and the motion coming from it, but are there any additional questions that need to be answered this evening?
Madam Chair, thank you. I would just Yes, there are some. I would note that Trustee Grabentz was talking about the differentiation between operational and governance, and that we are really supposed to stick to governance-related questions and topics at these meetings. So I would direct people who had many questions back to the director's report, which took place at approximately 9 p.m. Or approximately 2 hours into the meeting. Other questions that we received outside of that kind of big group relate to IT, specifically the Temple operating system, junior kindergarten, transportation, iSTEM, special education, and COVID-19. So within the time that we have, I propose to try to, from a governance perspective, ask these questions, if that's okay. Yes? Okay, so why don't we start with COVID-19? How does the board see its authority and the authority of principals to create and enforce a mask mandate? There's also a question about HVAC and ventilation, what's being done, and what are the screening requirements at this moment?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm going to ask Superintendent Fowler if she could speak to the mask, and Superintendent Godet to speak to the HVAC.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that was really loud. Sorry, everyone. Okay, so this is in regards to mask mandates. So at this time, again, I'm just going to reiterate what I shared last time when we met. We do take direction from the region of Halton Public Health, and at this time, mask mandates are only in place with regards to very specific people who are returning from having had symptoms, or people who have been exposed to COVID-19, et cetera. Those are all listed, of course, on our information sheet, as well as the school screening tool that you can use. Beyond that, there are no mask mandates. And as a board, at this time, we are taking direction from the region of health. And so therefore, we are not implementing a mask mandate. With regards to the HVAC and what's being done regarding ventilation, I would like to request to pass this to my esteemed colleague, Superintendent Godet.
Thank you, Superintendent Fowler, and thanks for the question. I'm going to go back a bit in time, just since this has evolved. And so ventilation in schools is one of many layered responses to support student and staff safety. Our team of experts in facilities, as well as our consultants and contractors on our vendor of record, use guidelines set out in the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers, also known as ASHRAE, with their standards and guidance documents. So in addition to the more than $27 million of maintenance and renewal funding back the previous year, and the additional $19.4 million that was received through the COVID Resilient Infrastructure Stream, or CVRS funding from the province and the federal government to support upgrades to windows, building, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, information technology infrastructure, and childcare projects, as well as outdoor learning projects. We spent approximately $32 million on ventilation upgrades in our schools between 2020 school year to the end of 2021 school year. And this year we plan to invest further. We've got a long history of upgrading our mechanical systems across the board. So this includes our regular renewal maintenance, but also targeted initiatives that the board approves, such as Close the Gap, that added air conditioning upgrades to several of our schools. So at the outset of the pandemic, a series of measures were taken to support student and staff safety and wellness relative to ventilation. These measures included the following, and it included an assessment of all schools with their mechanical systems, what type of mechanical systems they had in the classrooms and whether they had operable windows. Ventilation systems were adjusted to minimize air recirculation within the schools, and that still exists today. Scheduled mechanical ventilation systems were established to run beginning at 6 a.m., so a 2-hour pre-purge of the system and flushing of the building, and that continues on until 6 p.m. where we can schedule it, and that continues today. In addition, all filter media was upgraded to MERV 13 filtration, and air filter changes occur every 2 months. Where classrooms were assessed to have less than 6 air changes per hour, or where windows were not able to be opened, high-efficiency air particulate, also known as HEPA air purifiers, were ordered and installed to support student and staff well-being. HDSB installed 397 HEPA air purifiers in schools for startup back in September of 2020. Later in January of 2021, to support our most vulnerable students and staff that operated life skills and community pathways programs for our students during school shutdowns, an additional 73 HEPA air purifiers were deployed to support those activities. In advance of September 2021, an additional 1,078 HEPA air purifiers were delivered through the MGCS, Ministry of Government and Consumer Services, and deployed in priority order to the following spaces in schools: kindergarten classrooms, libraries, gymnasiums, offices, and then other spaces that were being used by multiple cohorts. In February and May of 2022, additional HEPA air purifiers were delivered to the school board and used to support additional requests received from administrators with other needs identified at their schools. So all of the above achieves or exceeds the requirements that were detailed in the documentation from the Ministry of Education and the expert panel guidance. Our board website provides additional details on a school-by-school basis regarding ventilation systems and the HEPA air purifiers, as well as the investment details. And we continue to queue up more work to upgrade our HVAC systems within the school board through our capital renewal program. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Thanks for your help. I think that was a much more fulsome report than I would have provided. So through you, Vice Chair Harrison, the final question for me, I believe, is around screening and what the screening requirements are. So the screening tool was recently updated just prior to the start of the school year to reflect the new COVID guidelines in terms of isolation and masking. So we are, again, strongly encouraging and expecting most of our students and staff, all students and staff, to come having screened themselves. And as I shared before, I think they're doing a good job at staying home when they are ill with symptoms of COVID-19. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. For some of the others, I propose to highlight the superintendent and the response that has been provided, just so we go through them a little bit. Okay, excellent. So special education, who should we connect with to get additional support for our student? I'd like to thank Superintendent Ruddick for noting that parents should discuss their child's needs with the teacher first, the school CERT, and the principal to come up with a plan that will best support that student. So again, the idea here is to help with these issues and situations as close to the classroom as possible, because those people know your students really, really well. Okay, iSTEM. Where can we find information about the iSTEM program? Where is iSTEM offered, and so on. So I'd like to highlight Superintendent Frankovich for this one and just say thank you. And people are directed to the board website, which has a ton of information on iSTEM. My understanding is it's offered at Aldershot, Elsie McGill, and will be offered at TA Blakelock. So please search iSTEM, and hopefully you will find all of the information that you need. If not, please do check with the guidance counselor at your school and or the teacher. Transportation is transportation available for students in Halton? And I would direct people through Superintendent Nagoy, Halton Student Transportation Services, which you can find at haltonbus.ca, and there are eligibility requirements for both elementary and secondary students, as well as a courtesy seat process that may be of interest. Thank you for that information. Then to JK, can students start as half-time and transition to full-time? Where can I find information about this? Through Superintendent Frankovich again. Please talk to, again, your school to discuss any extraordinary circumstances so we can support that student to eventually attend full-time and have a wonderful experience. And lastly, we have a question related to IT and the Temple operating system. How is this being used, and does it require changes to software and costs to students?
I may turn this over to Superintendent Shaws.
Through the chair to Trustee Al Harrison. No, to my knowledge, there isn't any. I'll have to take that back and investigate further, though.
Okay, thank you very much. So just to loop back to, we're grateful to receive the questions. None of them were really of a governance nature, so I believe Chair Shuttleworth is going to explain, or has explained, how to get your questions answered. Please don't wait until board meetings. Please use the processes that she is going to explain.
There you go. So again, as Vice Chair Harrison, there are several ways to be heard by the Board of Trustees. As seen tonight, there is a Q&A portion of the meeting that is, again, focusing on governance. You may also choose to delegate the board. And optimally, the best way to do it is to reach out to your local trustee. Trustee contact details are available on the hdsb.ca website, but be mindful, again, as we have tonight, of the tone and candor in your messages. So that brings us to item 7.0. I really want to thank the remaining members of the gallery for engaging in our meeting this evening. I really do appreciate that there's been many competing forces, opinions, and emotions that have influenced this meeting tonight. And I want to thank everyone here for listening and engaging in this meeting in a way that allowed the business of the board to be addressed. And as our agenda is now exhausted, as I'm sure many of us are too, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great night.